going to be a good one. I have somebody in here that is not only a powerhouse in leadership and business and politics. It's somebody that I've known since the BYU days and is a trailblazer of her own. And it's my girl, Andria Tupola.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Andria, so what have you been up? Okay, can we just take a minute to kind of, do due diligence to where we've come from since BYU days? I mean, I mean, who would have thought, like, after all these years, we'd be sitting in a podcast room together,
I know.
doing a podcast on women stepping into their power. I mean, back then, I was just worried about class, but you were already kind of out there making waves. I think you were like the president of the multicultural club, and I don't know if I was your secretary or your treasurer.
Oh yeah, I think
I was a horrible one, but
yeah. So I am from Hawaii. I graduated from Kamehameha schools, and then I got into BYU Provo. So I graduated in 1998. I came up that fall, and I was 17 years old. Wanting to just be out of Hawaii, be away from my parents, and I wanted to major in music. So BYU was a good choice. I mean, they have a good music school. And of course, I just wanted to be around people who are like-minded. So I come up here, to Utah, and of course it's cold. Holy smokes, the snow. I don't know if anyone can ever be ready for that. And then, my first year, freshman year, I was like, our church little Relief Society president. So I was in leadership, which was not uncommon. When I was in high school, I was always in leadership. So I was like, oh, okay. But also I wanted to have fun. I mean, who doesn't want to go to college and have fun?
Right.
So I was like, why are you making me in charge of things? I'm 17 years old.
See,
and then
that was destined for you for a while.
And then sophomore year, then I think it was... I think it was that year that we did Polynesian Club, and I was the Polynesian Club president. And I remember they had like tryouts for like, what is it called? Long story short, they're like, oh yeah. Oh, I know what it was. I started this thing called Multicultural Student Organization, MSO. So the
MSO, yes,
the multicultural office at BYU asked me if I would help them recruit. So I was a freshman, and it was Vern Heppery. He was the director, and he was like, Andrea, can you help us like get more Native Americans to come to BYU? And I was like, what would that be? He's like, okay, well, can you start a dancing and performing team? And of course, in my mind, I was like, yeah, of course I can do that. He's like, you guys are going to like travel around the reservations close to BYU and get people to come. I was like, okay. So yeah, so I coordinated the dancings, recruited the dancers, did the costuming and whatnot. And then I think it was junior year that I was the Polynesian Club president. And then the last year before my mission, I was the student body vice president for BYU.
Yeah, you did. You started early. I mean, I saw it in you pretty early.
My professors are like, don't forget, you're here for school. I was like, what? I was like, Miss Social everything at every dance, going out. They were like, you need to come to class. I'm like, I'll be there. Right after I do the dance, I do this, I do that.
You were doing it all. You were, and you still are. So tell us, like, what are you up to now?
So after I graduated, I went back I served the mission. So I did a mission in Venezuela, which was really important for my story because it helped me to understand the importance of politics and government in our lives, what we want, what we don't want. So I went on a mission. I got married in 2006, had my first baby 2007, went back to Hawaii. My ex-husband was, playing sports, whatnot for the Texans. Then he did a arena ball in Michigan, had my second baby. That was 2008. And then at that time, I don't know if I should say I was bored, but I'm always like wanting to be challenged. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to go get a master's degree. So while my two babies were young, I got my master's, and then I started teaching at University of Hawaii. So I was a professor of music, and then shortly after, some years after, I got my doctorate degree. But in 2014, I decided that I was going to run for office. So I was a state house legislator from 2014 to 2018. I ran for governor for the state of Hawaii in 2018 when I was 37. Didn't finish, but I did get in second. So I went all the way to the end. I was the nominee. And then I got into city council 2021, been there 5 years.
You've been busy. You've been busy since the BYU days, but that doesn't surprise me at all. So, we have this launch coming up, and it's themed Women Who Know They're Meant for More. So I really wanted to have this discussion while you were in town.
Yeah.
About, there's always, I see it with a lot of women where they feel like there's something bubbling under them. There's just something there. There's something that's unsettling, right? And something that pulls you that to do something bigger, the big, bold thing. But then life happens, right? And we shrink ourselves and we get too scared. And,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just, then everything just kind of, you put things take a back seat, right? So were you always somebody that knew you were meant for more, or was there a moment where you felt like, yeah, I'm meant for more than what is kind of paved out for me? Because we come from Polynesian backgrounds,
Yeah.
right? So there's certain expectations there. So when was that moment for you, and how did you get around that?
Two things. One is my parents are both Polynesian. So my mother is half Hawaiian, half white. And then my dad is full Samoan. So you would imagine that I grew up with this like Polynesian background, but my dad basically grew up everywhere. Louisiana, Okinawa, Texas. He was born in Utah, actually. So a lot of people are shocked because they think he graduated Kahuku. Bodhi Uwale did not graduate Kahuku. Okay.
He's not a Red Raider?
He's not a Red Raider. He graduated from Cole High School in Texas. And so my father has a very American, background. So he does speak Samoan because he served a mission in Samoa. So he can, he understands the culture. My mother, she grew up in LA. So she's from Pasadena. She went to BYU Hawaii. That's where my parents met. So with that being said, the way my parents parented me was not super Polynesian. If you wanted to interject or if you had an idea, you could share it. There's a lot of Polynesian families where you can't share it, where they don't care what your opinion is. I would say for the most part, my parents were somewhere in between, right? Be respectful, but yes, you can suggest things. Yes, if things are...
You can challenge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
And so I think, with that, my dad was a lawyer when I was growing up. So when he was 37, he became the first family court judge that was Samoan in the United States. I was 12. So I remember when my dad became a judge, that was oh man, what is going on? Because every Samoan across the United States and especially in Hawaii was oh, we don't do that job. Samoans don't become judges. So it was a foreign concept, but I remember my dad challenging that and just doing it. And of course, he served in the family court all the way until he retired last year, December, changed tons of lives, done tons of adoptions, marriages, divorces, all kinds of things. So that was a pretty, important moment for me. I would say the second thing is I have 3 brothers. A lot of people, I think, that have brothers know exactly what it feels like to constantly be challenged. There is nothing that I wanted to do more than beat my brothers at everything. So because
you're the only girl.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think that that's kind of another moment that was just it's either make it or, get teased all day or get demeaned by my brothers. So I had to constantly be in competitive mode, right? With my brothers, with everything going on, try to keep up with them, try to keep up with their jokes, what they're doing, where they're going. So I think for me, those 2 things really kind of cemented into me that 1, it's okay to challenge the status quo. And 2, it's okay to be in competition your whole life. Because even to this day, I still like competing with my brothers. Even when I was pregnant, I was I don't care if I'm pregnant, I can still beat you at this.
Was there a certain pathway for you that you didn't having a father that's a judge? Was there any pressure for you to kind of go that route? And then did you I know you kind of blaze your own trail, but what was that like?
So when I went to BYU, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I remember I talked to my dad about it. And my dad was oh, yeah, it takes a certain kind of person to be a lawyer. He said, you should go be like your mom. You should go teach music, which I didn't mind music. I was really good at that too. So I was
so what do you play the piano? I know you play the piano.
Yeah, I have 3 degrees in music. My undergrad, my master's, and my doctorate are all in music education. Vocal emphasis, I teach choir. I love choir. I did my student teaching at Woods Cross and Orem Middle School when I was at BYU. So yeah, I still love choir, love singing. So that was kind of the path, right? Not that
music.
I didn't not like it. I loved it. And once I became a professor, I was oh, this is great. I want to teach college. I want to grow and develop adults into singers and choir people. But then, in 2014, I guess that was the moment. And it wasn't that I was meant for more. It's I had this feeling this shift was happening in the world. And so in 2012, I campaigned for a presidential candidate. But the reason why was because his opponent was talking a lot about Venezuelan policies. I had lived in Venezuela. I knew already some of those policies sound good on the face, but they're not good for us. They're not good for our communities. So I got involved, campaigned for that candidate. He lost. And then shortly after, a lot of people are like, you should run for office. And at the time I was a professor, and my kids were 2 and 3. So I was like, why would I run for office? They said, because we need good leaders. And, when I was at BYU, I told my dad I wanted to be a lawyer. He told me not to. So then I wanted to go ask my dad again what he thought about this. And when I said, Dad, I think I want to run for office, he was like, do it. I was confused. I said, how come I should do this? And he was like, we need better leaders. You'd be perfect for this. And I didn't know anything about anything. And I was like, I just don't understand how this is a good idea. I was like, there's got to be better people than me. I don't even know the law. So I started asking. I figured out, who my representative was. And I mean, long story short, I wasn't impressed, not by that person, but just in general with the leaders we had. And in my head, per usual, I was like, I can beat everybody. So I was like, I'm going to jump in this. I'm going to win this race because, it's a mix of campaigning and basically missionary work because you have to knock doors. You got to love people. You got to go around, which I was like, I've done those things. But I was running in a community I didn't grow up in. So I represent the West Side. I grew up in Hawaii Kai, which is kind of an affluent area in Oahu. So there was challenges, but I won my first time, raised a bunch of money. People were shocked. And then from there, it just kept going.
I love that. So you've been in spaces that you weren't expected to be in, being the first Samoan woman in politics and the youngest to do it, right? And being a mom and a wife. What was it like stepping in those spaces that weren't built with you in mind?
I remember when I first ran, my mom specifically told me that she felt like I needed to focus on being a mom and not run for office.
That's such a Polly thing. I swear it is.
And I was like, why can't I do both? I don't understand. And, granted, I always take my mother's advice under advisement. Again, I don't have to always follow their advice. But I was like, no, it's valid. What she's telling me is don't be too distracted, right? Pay attention to the kids. And I remember when I was Relief Society president in one of my wards, when I got my master's, somebody told me that too. They were like, do you think it's the right thing to go get a master's seeing as though you have little kids? I was like, why can't I get a master's degree and have little kids? Like, I can go to school and watch these guys. It's not too hard. So I think that whole thing, like my kids were young and I was a young mother. So a lot of people are like, is this really what you should be doing? Shouldn't you just be focused on your momhood? And I was like, I mean, I guess. But the kids rode bike, right? So if I knocked doors, I was like, girls, get on your bike. We're going to go down the street. They'd ride their little bike. I'd knock doors, talk to people, and they'd play on the street. Or, we would make do. Sometimes people would watch them. I don't know what it was like to be my daughters. You're going to have to ask them. I don't know if it was chaotic, but I can say my daughters are 16 and 17 now. And I think that it was the right thing for me to do.
I would love for you to expand on that because I think a lot of women feel that pressure. And honestly, we're in Utah, so that's a lot. There's a lot more pressure here for that, right? There's certain roles that we have to stay within, right? Anything outside of the home, it's kind of taboo to do. So speak on that and kind of how you navigated that.
I ran for governor in 2018 and the sentiment didn't change. I had been in office for 4 years. I had still been a mom through those years, dropped off my kids, went to their events. But I remember when I ran for governor, specifically another governor candidate told me, she's like, you're not going to be able to do this. I said, why? She goes, you're a mom. You're going to be distracted. She's like, you're running for the highest office in the state of Hawaii. She's like, you can't be a mom. I was like, well, I am, and I'm going to do it. And granted, that was her opinion. I think it's valid. I think from her point of view, because she's still single, she was the governor for Hawaii. I think it's valid. She knows how busy it is. But, there's that quote from C.S. Lewis that said, children are not a distraction from important work. They are the most important work. And so I don't understand why we can't fulfill these roles and do the things that are laid in front of us while concurrently being a mother. And so I thought it was possible, and come to find out, it was.
It was. But we don't look at it like that. I think, well, even for me, I felt like for so long that was the trade-off for me to show up fully as a mom was everything I wanted to do had to take a backseat. And so it just was hard. And then you get to a point in your life where I'm halfway through and what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm always at, last year was kind of we spoke about this on the phone, was kind of a revolutionary year for me. And I just was like, look, being a mom is always going to be at the heart of who I am. But it's not enough for me anymore. I feel like I'm meant for more. And it sounded so selfish. Honestly, it was hard to even say that out loud because I feel like sometimes as women, we don't even have permission, right? To say that and to pursue things. What do you say about that?
I agree. I mean, I was married, and I do think that was tough for my ex-husband. He mentioned it numerous times in public and to me that he just didn't think that it was adding to our family, like, my million things. But at the same time, I didn't feel like that was necessary to put aside. Like, I don't understand why you can't be a mom and a legislator and a mother and a child of God and a Relief Society. Like, you can do all those things, and there's no such thing as balance. Like, you just have to give and take. Yeah, you got to give and take, right? There's some times where I have to put down my legislator hat and I'm just a mom. I'm helping my kids with prom. I'm washing uniforms for basketball. And I call my office and I'm like, no meetings, no nothing. I got to be a mom this weekend. Don't tell me if anyone called. But then I feel like that's the whole thing is like you have these Polynesian norms, you have these church norms, which I have a lot to say about that too.
Yeah, we're like double whammy. Like,
yeah.
There's these roles, there's these expectations and these.
And I feel like for the most part, I just didn't think of it, right? I just basically confronted all of it, didn't think like, oh, I shouldn't this, I should. Like, literally, I'm the kind of person that I'm like, nobody tells me what to do, ever. And my parents know that I'm that way, right? Kind of feisty, super sassy. I've gotten better over the years. I'm a little nicer, since I served a mission, I tried to be nicer. But I do think that for, the people that tell you can't do these things, you got to think about the fact that when people are giving you limitations, it's because they've put those limitations on themselves. So like, they're not trying to put you down. They're not trying to tell you to be less. They can only think in that mindset. So, it's too bad that they have a mindset that's that small, but really that's all they can operate from is telling you from their experience what they see. But remember that, you're infinite and your worth is infinite, but also like your ability to see who you are can only be seen from your perspective. I don't care how close the people are to you. I don't know if you've read that book by, what is it called? But Emily Breen, I think. She talks about cheap seats feedback. So she talks about how there's like this arena in life.
Yes. Okay. That was the Roosevelt quote, right? Which is my favorite. But I saw it. I first got introduced to it by Brene Brown.
Oh, Brene Brown. That's
yes.
what it is. Yeah. And she was, saying that. It's like we listen to people's voices who do not give a rat's about our life. Why?
Yeah, and the ones sitting in the cheap seats. Like,
yeah, these
not
are
in
the guys
arena.
that paid the $1, the $5, or they waited until all the seats were sold and then they got in for free. Why in the world are their voices so loud in our heads? I mean, I get that every day. There are so many people that say so many things to me about the way I look, the way I talk, what I'm doing. And like, I got to put everything in perspective. Like, those people did not invest in my life. They do not help me with my children. They did not get me through to get my doctorate degree. I don't even know if they vote. They did not vote for me. They probably not even from my state. I got to remember that the people who care about me the most, like, yes, listen to their voices, but also put that in perspective. Like, you are the person that can see the perspective of who you are the best.
I love that. During this time, like, was there a fall off when people didn't agree with the way you were moving in life and the things that you were pursuing? Did you lose people?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but you got to just be okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that. I feel like my circle is pretty small and I like it that way.
I think when you get older, I feel like that's naturally where it goes. But when you're younger, you're like, when people are your people, you think they're there forever.
I know.
And then things shift and then it's like,
there's this thing in life, where we always want people to accept us. We want them to love us. We want them to like us. But you got to think about why. Like, why would you need those people to like you or accept you? Is it so that you can feel better about yourself? Is it so that you can feel like you're worth something? Like, if you don't have an answer to that, then it doesn't matter. Like, I have 140,000 constituents. And obviously when I ran for governor, there's millions of people watching what I was doing. Yeah. Did they all have positive feedback? No. But then there's also a balance in the universe of good and bad. And I remember I went to my friend Alice Inoue. She runs this thing called Happiness University because she wants to help people be happy. She literally called me and said, Andrea, how are you doing? I was like, this is like one of the hardest things I've ever done. I was like, I think I have to take a TRO against this guy that's stalking me. I have to do this thing. Like, there were so many voices. They were so loud. And she said, let me ask you a question. If I was to take away something very, very hard, very challenging for you right now, what would you give up that was good? I was like, I don't know, nothing. She goes, do you want all the good stuff still? I said, yeah, I want all the good stuff. She goes, if you don't want to give up all the good stuff, then you have to have the bad stuff. You have to.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because there's a balance in the universe of good and bad, and there needs to be bad stuff. So if you're getting a lot of hate, you gotta just let it come towards you. So like as I was like progressing through the governor's race, I remember that is like it was starting to like almost intensify, like the kind of like hate and challenge. And then I had to just kind of wrap my head around the fact that like, this is the process, you're getting there. So, I mean, even up until the day of the election, oh my gosh, like even up until the day of the election, people were still trying to run like hit pieces on me, shame me in the news, whatever. And it was what it was. Like no one died. I'm okay. But it's one of those things like, did it really, really hurt me? Like, no, I'm fine. I think it's you have to accept the fact that people have different perceptions and things to say about you. But if it's not destroying the path in front of you, then just let it come. Don't wish it away. Let it come.
Surrender, full surrender.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have a hard time with that. So
yeah, you got to kind of like sit in the pain. Like don't want the pain to go away. Like let it come into you and then it'll be fine.
Okay, that's okay. Let's still follow up on that pain. Like why do you think that's so important to be part of? How has that been part of your story, and where has that kind of taken you? Because I feel like pain is kind of, it gives you like the most honest look at where you can transform, right? But where has that played in your life, and like even being a woman in politics?
Gosh, I guess pain is subjective, right? Because for some people, pain is physical. For some people, pain can be emotional. For other people, pain is separation from things that they love, people that they love. So I will say that I won't downplay any type of pain because all types of pain hurt. Right. And I think that, for me, I've experienced many of those things, but not to the point where I couldn't handle it. In the moment, it felt very heavy. But I do think coming out of it, you look back on it and you're like, yeah, I think I can do that again. You know, when I was in Venezuela, it was particularly hard. I mean, I got parasites when I was there. It's just a really tough country to live in, very tough country. So I remember when I came out of Venezuela, I was like, oh my gosh, I never want to live there again. Like, because, you know, there's no freedoms, there's like military enforcement in the roads, whatever it was. So if I didn't experience that pain, I don't think I would have ever run for office. Because I only ran because I didn't want to see what happened in another country happen here. That's it. But if I was like, oh my gosh, Venezuela is so scary. I don't know if I should live there. I don't want to go. I would have never seen it. I would have never known that that's what happens when you have, you know, different philosophies of government that take away your power and basically force on you things you don't want. And then when I got back to America, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be for things like that. I need our communities to be empowered. I need us to make our own decisions. We should be far away from government running our lives. So yeah, I think that's the benefit of pain is like, you're able to have perspective.
I love that. That is a word. You're able to have perspective through pain. Okay, girl, let's talk about this last year. Because I feel like every woman that I've known has kind of gone through a major reset, right? And I know we talked about this before you came out, that this last year, 2024, and I don't know if it was like the cosmos had a line. I don't know what it was.
Wait, was it a tough year for you too?
It was. It was a really tough year. It was a tough year. So 2024, I know we talked that it was a transformational year for you. What was it? And when did you get to a point where you're like, I can't be who I was. I need to step into this new me that's pulling me, or was it even that? Like, talk about this last year.
Okay, so there's this thing I do, right? I compartmentalize my life very well. So
I feel like it's a woman thing.
Like my whole entire personal life can be falling apart and I'm fine at work. I'm fine in public. I'm fine on the news. Like I can still do everything I need to do. I can get a doctorate degree. I can do all the things, but still have like internal battles and it doesn't like really come out. My therapist tells me that it's, good and bad. Good because then, I never like lose it, but bad because sometimes
You don't process.
I don't process, but also like I think I numb my pain, right? Because things hurt me, but then I don't let it hurt me. So it's like this really hurtful thing was said to me or this really hurtful like incident happened. And then I just like think to myself like, okay, be strong. Don't be a baby. I tell myself that all the time. Andrew, don't be a baby. Like, why are you crying about this? It's like not that hard, And so I think that's the hard part is like when I'm saying sit in my pain, it's like something I'm still trying to like do because there's so many things that happen to me that are hard that I'm just like, okay, head up, okay, keep going, you're fine. But sometimes it's okay to acknowledge that those things like really like might have gutted you, not scraped you, pulled everything out of you. Like this is not like small pain, this is like deep pain. And so I think like over these past couple years, I want to say since 2021, I kind of like intensified my therapy sessions, personal, marriage therapy, family therapy. I started to like up all of them because I could kind of feel like this thing happening in my family where there was like all this like tension like between me and the kids and him, me and him. And like I was trying to identify like what was going on. So I was like, okay, therapy, like, okay, you tell us what's going on. But you can't really do that because you have your own things. He had his own things. My kids had their own things. And then how did those things coincide in a way that also was tenuous, right? So I think, after years of therapy, I was getting the picture that I wasn't okay with things that were happening in my life. Like I was starting to understand that like maybe what I thought was okay was actually not okay. But I had to like say it out loud. There was a lot of things I never said out loud, like that I didn't like.
Like you're unhappy. I'm unhappy because that's sometimes hard to admit.
Yeah. And it was like in church. It was like in my marriage. Like I had to like say things because like sometimes people say you can't say those things, like you have to just like keep it inside or like, oh, you're being disrespectful or, oh, you're going against the church. And I'm like, no, I'm just saying how I feel. Like, I don't feel like this is serving me. I feel like I'm empty. And as I move in my life, empty, 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 everywhere I go, I'm asked to give more. I'm asked to do more. I'm asked to hold myself together and continue to turn outwards, even though I knew I didn't have anything inside of me. And I did it. I did it for many years. And so I think last year, I never, ever thought that I would actually do it, right? Like you think about divorce and then you're like, no, it's too difficult. It's complicated. What about the kids? What about this?
Kids.
Yeah, it's always, what about the kids? And I said all of those things because they were true concerns. Like I really was like, is my whole life going to fall apart? Like what's going to happen? And so I didn't decide to do it. Like I didn't but I think over many years, it was starting to formulate in my mind. Like it was starting to formulate that if it's not serving me, if it's not helping me to progress, if it's not helping me to reach goals, then it's not good for me. If it's hurting my children, if my children are frustrated, if they're also like becoming more disrespectful to the parents, like then they're not okay with it either. So it kind of started in 2021. And then over the years from that, I kind of like moved towards like whether or not I would make that decision. So, yeah.
So how was that? How was all of that? Navigating all of that?
I honestly can't believe I had the strength to do it. I still can't believe it. Like, because it takes so much strength to do something different,
Yes.
And I'm like stepping and I'm moving and I'm progressing in my career. And I'm just like, what if I do this huge thing and it just blows up in my face? So it was like last summer and, the kids were gone for me for a little bit. They were here in Utah, going to camps, hanging out with their dad, whatever. And just things were just still just so tense between them and him and me. And I was just like, what is up with this? Like, I can't seem to calm anything down. Like, I can't seem to resolve it through therapy. I can't seem to like like I couldn't pull together the pieces, like, and I usually can pull together the pieces anytime. And so when they came back from Utah, I was on a work trip in China, and oh my gosh, like I don't really travel by myself, or I'm not really alone ever. So that was like 3 weeks of me being alone. And I think during that time of being alone, I had lots of clarity of thought. And the thoughts that were coming to me were very, very clear. And I didn't think I was going to get divorced. So just for clarity, the thoughts were not get divorced. The thoughts were just, hey, you're strong enough. You can do this, which I didn't really think I knew what that meant. I get a lot of messages that I'm like, what does that mean? So like when I felt that, I was like, yes, I can do this. So I come home, we talk, we discuss, how was the trip? How was this? And there was still a lot of tension. There was a lot of like blaming because, I didn't help with the kids and I left and he had to this and that. And, we were already married 17 years. So like everyone knows what that fight's like. I did this and you didn't do that. So to me, it wasn't even the fight. It literally was not the fight. It was the underlying issue of me feeling like I never, ever am able to just fall apart and have him just catch me and just be like, hey, it's okay. Because it was never okay. I always had to be the person to pull all the pieces together. It's just exhausting. And I told him, I said, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I think I need time to heal myself. I need time to just try to rejuvenate myself. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do it with you. And I told him, and we agreed. I said, I think you're not progressing either. I said, I feel like with us staying married, we're both getting stuck, and I want you to progress, I want you to like seek promotions at work and do these things, but it's hard being married to a driven woman. It's very hard. And I feel like in some ways, like because of like who I am, he minimized himself, and I didn't want him to do that anymore. I was like, I need you to like become the best version of yourself. And I don't think you can do that with me. Like, I really think we need to just let it go. We need to just let it go. And we cried, we stayed up almost the whole night just thinking about everything, because it wasn't a waste, our marriage, our life, it's not a waste. It was all meant to happen. It helped him. It helped me. There was still a lot of highs, nice moments, but it was, I think, what was best for our family to grow, which is so crazy to say that something so terrible and something that people are like afraid to do could be a good thing, could be a growth thing.
Yes. I love that. And I love it that, sometimes that's love too, is finally getting to a place where you can let go. And it feels like death, right? It's so painful, and it feels like death. I can imagine, but like to get to that place, it's so brave of you, and it's love. It's love too, And sometimes exactly what you said. I think sometimes we look at that as such a bad stigma, right? And where do you think that comes from?
The church. And I talked to my little brother, he lives here, and he was like, Andria, it says nowhere in the scriptures that divorce is bad. He was like, literally, you are not breaking the commandments. You are strong enough. Just do it. Because I really needed someone to coach me up. I was like, man, coach me up. Like, I don't think I can do this. My brother's
and
like,
nobody goes into marriage thinking we're going to get divorced.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And so he had to coach me up. My brother had to be like, hey, hold it together, Andria. He's like, I've seen you do it at work. Make a plan, execute. Make a plan, execute. I was like, I don't think I have the strength. He's like, you have the strength. He's like, go to the courthouse. And I actually went together with my ex-husband. We did it together. We filed the paperwork together. And of course we cried the whole entire time we're at the courthouse. It was like 2 full days of like filling out like what we would separate with our assets, what we would do for custody. And then, my dad works at the family courthouse, so everyone knows me there. And of course, people were crying, filing my papers. I'm like, stop crying.
Were you in the newspaper?
They were like, I don't want this for you. I'm like, stop, it's already so hard for me. But I mean, I know that my constituents, the people I represent, they love me, they want the best for me, but no one can really know what's the best for me, besides just God and me. So
there's something that you said earlier about compartmentalizing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're speaking to my soul, because I'm like that too. I'm in the, things are burning down all around me. And I have like one of my good closest cousins that I call for everything. And he's like, you're calling me about tablescapes and literally your whole life is burning around you. And I'm like, I know. But I feel like that's just kind of a way we learn. And that's a conversation I would love to have around. We see our mothers, we grow up with moms that just do everything, right? And they learn to put their dreams in the back burner. And I feel like we're kind of moving into this new generation where we're like, oh no, what I want to do is worthy of pursuit. And so how do we even move into that when it wasn't really modeled? Love looked like you got to do everything. You got to be the mom. If you have to work, then you got to go to work. Like everything outside of the home, you can't do. That's not what a good mom looks like. So how do you, what would you say about that? About, kind of stepping into that. And I'm always in the mindset, the only way we can really truly honor like their sacrifice and their uneasiness and the life that they lived is to really step out and live the dreams that they weren't able to. And like, how do you do that?
Well, first and foremost, my mother did not put aside any kind of dream because she has a doctorate degree. She worked the whole entire time we were growing up. So I think for me, that's probably even more so why I thought it was okay. Even though she questioned me, I still thought it's fine because she did it. She did it. She worked every single day. In fact, my mom should retire. She's still working. And I'm like, Mom, relax. No, I can't relax. I got to work. So she worked, taught at schools. She teaches music. And then at night she would teach piano. So it was like sometimes till 7 or 8 at night. And, that was what she did. She was a workhorse. And I got to say that I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful because I think my work ethic definitely comes from my mother. And so I think for me as a mother, I just came from Puerto Rico last week. I was nominated Mother of the Year for Hawaii, which is But I was with a bunch of other mothers from other states and I was just wowed. I thought I've never stepped in rooms that were very impressive, unless I'm at a government meeting and I'm with the governor and other people. But no, I stepped into this room of moms and all I felt was power. I was just like, who are these people? There was a mom that had 18 children, 11 of them were adopted, and she's a wife of a pastor, and she's also in a band. There was a mom, she only had 2 children, but they were both foster children that she adopted. She talked about it. One mom only has 1 child, and her child has spina bifida, and she lives in New York. And another mom had a child at 20, at 30, and at 40, and her second child was born with half a heart. So now she runs a nonprofit that helps to fly families around to get medical attention for their children. So I'm sharing those stories because I feel like sometimes we don't realize that doing the most is totally fine. And going above and beyond is also fine. If you want to run a nonprofit and work and take care of your kids and adopt some kids and run a business, do the things that you're inspired to do and do the things that you're called to do.
Okay, so I love that you ended with that. Was there any fear, and what does fear I know so I started Anava, and most nights I sit there and lay in bed and I whisper to myself, who the frick do I think I am, right? And there's just so much fear that settles in. And then the next morning I'm like, okay, well, I got here, so I just got to keep going. But how do you overcome the fear? And did you face any? Because you're pretty fearless. So maybe this question isn't good for you, but I know fear is a constant companion. How do you get comfortable with that?
Okay, I'll share both sides. First, yes, definitely I'm fearless mostly because of my brothers. We go cliff jumping. I mean, we do crazy stuff that my mom was never happy about, ever. And we tried to keep as much of it from her as possible because we were always fine. Yes, we were hurt, but we were always fine. So I think for that part of it, I think that carried with me the rest of my life, just trying things that were new, getting out of my comfort zone. And then of course at BYU, one of my professors, his whole class was about getting out of your comfort zone. And it was a choir class. So we would do comfort zone assignments. You were assigned to do something and then report back on something you did outside of your comfort zone. So I think for me, that's all fine. But I will say that running for governor is daunting. So I remember when I did it, I wasn't afraid to do it. And of course, everybody else was like, dang, you got big balls running for governor. I was like, I didn't even think about whether it was hard or not. I just thought about the feeling that I get and the reason why I thought I should do it. So once I started to do it and like, the pressure came on, I'm basically running a mini organization, right? Because there's all these people that are volunteering. I have employees. I don't know. I do this thing where I tense my leg. So I go to a chiropractor and he writes this book about how sometimes mentally we tense things in our body physically to try to compensate for it. So I do this thing where I tense my left leg when I feel like I can't step into my power because I'm afraid. But then I would never say any of that out loud, ever. So I remember I went to the chiropractor, and this is either like right before or right after I ran for governor, and my knee was inflamed. And he was like, "What'd you do?" I was like, "Nothing. I didn't get injured. I didn't get hurt." He was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I don't know. I just like finished running for governor. I did all these other things." And he was like, "Well, that could be it." I was like, "What do you mean that could be it?" He was like, "Did you feel afraid while you did it?" I was like, "No." He was like, "Be honest. Were you afraid when you did it?" I was like, "Yes." Of course I was. Who's not afraid to do it?
Right.
And he was like, "You really got to relax." He's like, "Because you're tensing your body even right now." I was like, "I'm tensing it?" He was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're tensing it when you really need to just let it happen." He said, "Don't be afraid to step into your power." He's like, "Your power is there. You need to step into it. Don't tense your knee." And I still do it till today.
I love that. Don't be afraid to step into your power.
Yeah.
So when your leg gets...
I always know what's going on. It's in my mind. So like my left knee always like gets inflamed, and then I'm like, "Hey, Andrea, relax your mind. Don't be afraid. Everything's okay." Because of course it happened during the divorce too. There's all these things that happen in my body during the divorce. Like I'm like a strong believer in like body and mind. So like, yes, rashes, yes, like all kinds of stuff. Because like I think my body was like viscerally reacting to what I was doing,
Right.
And I was just like, what is going on? Like, but that's what it is, There's a lot of things like maybe you feel uncomfortable in your skin, and so you break out in a rash, or maybe you're afraid of something, you're tense about it, so then you get pain in your shoulders because you're like, so it's also something that you got to do when you're thinking through all the things you're asking me is like, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself good. Yeah.
I love that. What would you say, like stepping into your power, I think that's a good segue. What would you say to like the mom or the stay-at-home mom or even the small business owner who's getting ready to launch? What would you say to them if they're feeling a pull and they're just so afraid of the uncertainty? What would be the one thing you would say?
Okay, so
or a couple things.
We have this thing in Hawaii, right? So I go to the beach a lot. We, sometimes surf, bodyboard, whatever. Okay, so when a wave is coming at you, most people who are not used to the ocean, they get scared and they tense up, and then the wave hits them back down onto the sand. What you have to do is you have to jump into the wave. Like you literally jump into the wave and then you're fine. Like nothing will happen to you. And I'm talking about huge waves. So Makaha Beach is one of my favorite beaches to go to with my best friend. And those waves get up to like 7 to 10 feet. Of course, I take my kids out there and they're like, ah, it is scary. It's scary. But what you got to do is duck dive. That's what we call it. So when you duck dive, you like grab your board and you go under the wave. You don't go over it. Yeah, and you don't
You're gonna
freeze
get
up.
pounded.
You're gonna get pounded. You gotta go under the wave, and then you're fine. And like it's like a huge wave, but you look back and you're like, I did it. So I think in life, like that's what you gotta remember is like you gotta duck dive, right? You gotta keep your head down, do the work, do the work, do the work. If you're looking up and you're like scared out of your mind, like, yes, you're going to get slammed. You're going to get slammed and you're going to wonder why you even started doing it. That's your own fault. You should have duck dived. You should have kept your head down, done the work, move your feet, paddle your arms, get to the other side, then look back and then see your progress and be like, yeah.
Look what I did.
I did it.
I love that analogy. Okay, I want to end with like a quick
Okay.
This or that game, like something fun, something light and fun.
Okay.
Okay, so just whatever first comes to mind.
Okay.
We're going to just get through some of these really quick before we wrap up. Okay, 5 a.m. hustle or midnight flow?
5 a.m.
Oh, you're a morning.
Love it. Love the
You're a
morning.
morning. I feel like I'm morning or night. Like my team is always like, do you sleep? I'm like, barely.
Oh, I love my sleep.
Delegate or do it yourself?
Oh, do it myself.
I knew you were that. I served with you, so I know what you are. Okay, heels or barefoot?
Barefoot.
Barefoot, yeah, Hawaii girl. Bold lip or natural glow?
It depends, but probably bold lip.
Soft life or boss life?
Boss life.
You know, because you're a boss, girl. Okay, stay in or go out?
That also depends. I think stay in is good if you just like had a lot of like stimulation, because I have a lot of stimulation with like interviews and people. But yeah, going out for me is also great because I just love social life. I love dancing. Yeah.
What kind of dancing?
Oh, Latin dancing.
I was going to say, I love that. Okay, beach day or city lights?
Oh, beach day.
Yeah, that one's obvious. Okay, Sunday reset or Saturday brunch?
Ooh, can it be Sunday brunch?
Yeah, Sunday brunch.
Yep.
I'm down for a Sunday brunch. I love that. Book in hand or podcast in ears?
Oh, book in hand. I got to underline stuff. I got to circle it. I literally memorize things on the page, like what paragraph it is, what page it's on.
I love that. What's your favorite book? Like, what are you reading right now?
Let's see. I like to reread books a lot. Reading Atomic Habits again. That's a good one, right?
That one's so good.
I'm reading this book called, I think, What is Our Problem? So it just analyzes why people feel like there's so much problems in the world. It's a little bit like political. It doesn't talk about parties or anything, but it talks about how politically things are very polarized and why they got that way. So as an elected official, I have to really study that because it's what I deal with every day, which is people. So it helps me to understand why people think the way they do and why people are in certain categories of the world, and how, as lawmakers, we can either change laws or understand our constituents better.
So, is it interesting at all?
It has lots of pictures.
Well, that's a good thing.
It's a fat book, but it uses a lot of diagrams, girl. I'm like colors, diagrams, pictures.
Give me some of that and you're good, huh?
Yeah. I'm good with the visuals.
Okay, Samoan food or Hawaiian food?
Samoan food.
Samoan food? Okay, what's your favorite? Let's hear some of your favorites.
Well, like I just came from American Samoa, so I went to Flag Day. They gave us everything. I mean, fa'ausi, they gave us fa'apapa, they gave us, of course, we had some palusami, but I think everything in Samoa is more like, it's less Americanized than we have here, so a lot of it is seafood,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I saw that you went to American Samoa. I'm like, this girl's everywhere.
Oh, the governor asked us to go because there's only 2 Samoans in elected office right now, just me and Tulsi Gabbard's dad. So
where is he at? In Samoa?
No, Tulsi's dad lives in Hawaii. He's a senator.
Oh, okay.
So like Josh Green is our governor, and he called me and he was like, I need to go with some Samoans. So Uncle Mufi went, Mufi Hanneman, and then us 2, and then Auntie Shaw Thompson and Jack Thompson went. There's certain Samoans in Hawaii that he wanted to be around him while we showed up. He was the first governor to go to American Samoa for Flag Day.
Did he enjoy it?
I think so. Yeah, I think he did, actually.
Got a lot of good food, I bet.
I hope he did, because they fed us nonstop, girl.
Oh, I bet.
All day, all night.
I love that. Okay, so this is the last one because this is kind of our whole vibe of today. Meant for more or made for more, and why?
Ooh, I think made for more. I just really feel like there's so much within us that we just don't even allow to see the light of day. Like, I'm a strong believer in knowing who you are. And a lot of people think they know, but like, I don't know if everyone really knows. So I think when people are like, oh, I'm learning, I'm like, no, it's within you. It's actually coming out of you right now. It was always there.
I love that. I love this conversation, and I knew I had to get it recorded while you were here. I'm like, I haven't seen this girl since our BYU days, and so it's been
2005, I think. Yeah.
You're giving away our age. See, it wasn't that long ago.
I'm just saying, I promise. Like, for our age, we still look like good. We look like
there
boss.
You go. But thank you so much. Thank you for showing up with that same fire and passion I knew from you back at BYU. Not much has changed. You've always kind of been a trailblazer in that. And I love that people will get to see and hear from you. And really, you are the epitome of theme. Somebody who has always known that they're made for more. So thank you so much, Andria.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And good luck with your launch.
Where can we follow you and all the good things that you're doing?
Okay, back in the day, I used to have like 1 million social medias. Now I just have one because it's so much work to upkeep everything. So it's just my Instagram, Andria Tupola.
Andria Tupola. Find her on Instagram. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.